Science Note.
When you are pregnant, ultrasound days are one of the most exciting days of your whole process. If you remember back, now we have 4 kids, so we've been through it quite a few times. But remember when you pull in the parking lot, and as you pull in, and you don't know whether you're having a boy or girl yet, so you pull in and there's these parking spots with a pink stork and a blue stork and a pink stork and a blue stork. And we would always joke about where we should park. Do you think it's a boy? Do you think it's a girl? And I remember with our 3rd child, as we pulled in the parking lot, we had this same discussion. And then we walk up the stairs, through the lobby, in the waiting room. Now we're in the ultrasound room, which is cold and dark. We're just kind of sitting there waiting. And eventually our ultrasound tech comes in. And we're very excited because this is one of those moments where we find out something new after a lot of appointments that feel the exact same. And we wait, she's taking pictures, and then she finally says, "You guys want to know?" So yeah, we want to know. And she says, "There it is, it's a boy." If you've ever had a boy, you know what I mean when they say, "There it is, it's a boy." And you celebrate, and we're excited. Now at this point, we already had 2 boys, Gavin and Zachary. And so, in my mind, I'm thinking my honeydew list just got a lot shorter. I've already painted the room, we already have the toys and the clothes. And we hug and we kiss and we're excited, and she just keeps on taking her pictures. And then we kind of move on to who should we call first? Because back then you didn't throw a party or shoot balloons or guns. It was just it's a boy. You know, that's what we did. And so we were figuring out who we were going to call first. And then we move on to names. And again, the ultrasound tech's just taking our pictures, but now we're trying to figure out, what do you name your 3rd boy? We've already burned through our good 2 names that we had before we got married. What are we going to name him? And we're excited, and she's just still taking pictures. Well, finally, our energy kind of dies off for a moment, and she's taking a lot of pictures. So we sit and wait, and she's not really saying much. And then after a few minutes, she leaves and brings in Dr. LaForest. And Dr. LaForest comes in and says, "Mike and Kimberly, we need to talk to you about your son." I said, "Okay." She says, "On his brain, there's a cyst. And this cyst could lead to a whole host of things." She starts telling us all of this medical things that at this point, I'm in a brain fog, and it just kind of goes right over me. I said, "Okay, is there anything else?" And she says, "Well, his feet, they're curled up in like this. They're really bent in. He's going to need surgery, and braces, and therapy, and he'll eventually learn to walk. He'll be way behind, and he'll be no athlete." So, wow, this is not the appointment we thought we were walking into. So I said, "Is there anything else?" She said, "No." "All right, thank you very much." Then we hold hands and we walk through the lobby, down the stairs, down the sidewalk, and we sit in the car. Well, now we're sitting in the car, not really talking. So after a few minutes, I looked at her and said, "Well, we should probably pray for a miracle." So we did, and then we drove home. 4 weeks later, we finally come back in for another ultrasound, and it might as well have been 4 months. And we come in, we go up the stairs through the lobby into the cold, dark ultrasound room. And we're waiting, and she starts taking pictures. Now at this point, we're kind of expecting, hey, she's going to come back and say, "Hey, it was a mistake, everything is good," because we've been through this twice before and never had any issues. So she takes pictures, and then finally Dr. LaForest comes in and says, "Let's talk about your son. He had 1 cyst in his brain, but now there's 3, and they've spread around his brain." "Okay, what does that mean?" And she goes on to tell us a bunch of stuff. "How about his feet? They're still curled up really bad, still going to need all the same process. He'll be no athlete, but he'll eventually walk." Okay. Now, we had been through pregnancies before. We even dealt with a miscarriage before, but this was something completely different. This was a real challenge, because you can imagine in these weeks in between your appointments, you start running through all these scenarios. Do we have to buy a special vehicle? We're going to have to change the way our house operates or retrofit some things? Or how do you deal with all this, and what does life look like? And now we had done this before, and it felt like control was being taken away from us. And that's a tough position to be in when you say, this is supposed to be one of the best moments of our lives, but we're facing these challenges. And what do you do when control feels like it's taken away? So now 4 more weeks go by, and we go in for our final ultrasound to see our son. And as we go in there, we're sitting in this cold, dark waiting room. And the ultrasound tech takes her pictures. Now, the energy we brought into the first ultrasound is not the same energy we're sitting with in this 3rd ultrasound. She takes a bunch of pictures. And we're just waiting, kind of almost like, what's next? And she just takes a lot of pictures. Then she leaves and brings Dr. LaForest, and Dr. LaForest takes pictures. And I'm thinking, what is this? Well, finally she says, all right, Mike and Kimberly, we need to talk about your son. He had the one cyst, and then there was 3. We've looked all over his brain, and we can't find any cysts anywhere. And I said, well, this would be a big mistake if you missed it. So look again. Let's be really accurate and really thorough. She goes, we've taken all the pictures we can take. There's no more cysts on his brain. I said, well, great. That's a miracle. Let's talk about his feet. His feet are still really bent in. He'll be no athlete, he'll walk, but his brain's completely fine. That was a pretty cool day. That was a big miracle moment for us. And then we leave there, and we don't see anything of our son again for the next 8 weeks. Well, May 10th, 2014, it's the Saturday before Mother's Day, and we're at my parents' house celebrating with my family. And Kimberly goes into labor. We go to the hospital. 2 hours later, Caleb Isaac Douglas is born. And when I'm holding him, I'm looking at him. His feet, his feet are curled up in. So we wait till the next day. Our pediatrician comes in. And as he comes in to check him out, I said, hey, doc, check his feet out real quick. Let me know what you think. He takes his feet. They're bent in. He bends them out wide like this. They're bent in, and he bends them out like this again. Now, this is not the same person who's done our ultrasounds. But he says, man, this kid is flexible. He's going to be quite the athlete. And so we went through this journey of highs and lows. And every single time it felt like just another gut punch or another something being taken away from us. And we weren't doing anything wrong. My wife's one of the most paranoid, very intentional pregnant people in the world of what she will or won't eat. Our grocery bill goes through the roof, not because of amount, but because of quality. It has to become very specific ingredients, the whole deal. We did everything we could, but yet bad news after bad news kept coming. And how do you deal with that? Well, we had this experience with Caleb, and that shaped the way 18 months later when we get pregnant with our daughter Emmeline, when we go into an ultrasound, we have this new world view of how ultrasounds work. It was a little different. And we go into this first ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech says, hey, there's some stuff on your daughter's ultrasound. We said, it's okay, it's going to work itself out. And it did. But the big thing is that it changed the way we view pregnancy. It changed the way we view ultrasounds, ultrasound techs, our doctor, everything we've been through. And they all were doing their job. They all were being extremely helpful. But it changed some things for us. Well, then we go through something like 2020, when COVID hit, and a lot of us recalibrated our lives back to the things that matter most. I love teaching workshops. And I lived here in Livingston County for years leading up to 2020, and I was in this room February 26th of 2020 doing what turned out to be our last dinner workshop of the year. It was something we love doing. I teach classes at Cleary. I do things at Lansing Community College. We do stuff in Lansing. And I'm doing a lot of these educational workshops, yet when we can't go to restaurants, you can't go to college campuses for a year, basically, it changed your whole lifestyle. All of a sudden, I'm home for dinner every single night. And it was great. I hung out with Caleb and all of our kids and my wife every single night for about 9 months. And then comes October, and Kimberly goes, shouldn't you be getting out teaching some people somewhere? Quit rearranging our cabinets, quit messing with our stuff, But we go through these things, and for us, family matters the most. Being with our kids, being with our life that we've designed. And that's what retirement planning should be. It's getting to the life you've always dreamt of living. You saved and you worked and you've done all these things, and as you come into retirement, you go through your like last year where the market drops and corrects, not because you did something wrong, because the market corrected. But yet, whose 401ks paid the price? Regular people's accounts drop because the market dropped. We have hyperinflation. We have a lot of money being printed, not by our choice, but by decisions being made, and yet our 401ks pay the price. How do we deal with that when control's taken away? Tonight, we're talking about living out that life, doing the things you can do, controlling things you can control to protect your retirement. Because dollars and cents matter, account values matter, percentages matter, but money is the tool that gets us to the lifestyle we planned on living. Whether it's what most of our clients do, which is say, we're going to get out of here for a certain period of time. I had one client who she came in, and as we're learning each other and hearing her story, she says, one of our goals in life is 6 weeks somewhere. I said, what exactly does that mean? She goes, every winter, we want to spend 6 weeks somewhere not in Michigan. We don't care where it is, Florida, Arizona, South Carolina, whatever. 6 weeks somewhere that's not in Michigan. Okay. What about this? Nope, Mike, all we care about is 6 weeks somewhere. All right. And they wanted to make sure they didn't come back until this week what we're getting right here. Every April, we're all surprised by the ice storm or snow we get the third week of April. Happens almost every year. Now, we don't get it last week like we had every year. But we go through this. And she said, I'm coming back after that last storm. So when 2022 happened, and the market starts crashing and all these things, when we check back in, and as we do our reports and our reviews, she said, Mike, all I really care about is, are we still on pace for 6 weeks somewhere? You see, she retired December 31st, 2021. She retired right at the end of the year. And January 3rd, 2022 was the highest day in the history of the stock market. It immediately started crashing her first week of retirement. It's not fun. And when we were meeting back in September of 2021, I started talking to her about what if the market crashes? And in that moment, it's kind of, what do you mean? The market always goes up. That's right, it tends to always go up. However, we look at this long view and it tends to always go up. However, when you're first retiring, you really look at these short views of, gosh, the paycheck's not coming from work. What did the market do? How does it affect my portfolio? What are my account balances? So we made decisions back in September and October in the warmth and comfort of a comfortable conference room during a good market about how much risk is appropriate for their family to make sure they get 6 weeks somewhere. So if your goals look like this, or other people say it's not about vacationing specifically to the South, but it's about traveling the world and seeing things, and we have a bucket list. Kimberly's and my personal goal is to set foot on all 7 continents. That's our goal. Not a lot of time in Antarctica, but just a little bit. Get off the boat, take pictures with penguins, and get right back on the boat and go right back to South America. But that's one of our goals. We love to travel, set foot on all 7 continents. Other people, it's just about spending time with family. You may have kids and grandkids who move around the country. You have to travel just to see them. Or other people retire from work, and they now watch one of their grandkids Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 until 4:30, and that's their part-time gig. Whatever it is, money is the tool that gets us where we want to go. And so the results of all these things we talk about, while we do want to make sure that the numbers match up, it's because the numbers feed us the lifestyle. So let's make sure we account for those things. You can't control it all, but there are some things you can control. The number one thing you control is the top expense for most Americans in retirement. What do you think it is? What's the number one expense for retirees?
Healthcare.
Healthcare. That's the answer most people say. Taxes, right? And everybody in this room answered the answer correctly according to popular opinion. However, statistically speaking, taxes for most retirees is the number one expense. If you have a 401k that's worth about $500,000, and you live 25 years of retirement and you make 4 to 6% on average, on $500,000, you'll most likely pay right around $580,000 in taxes. $580,000 on 500 grand. Whoa, that's not a 12% bracket, right? That's pretty heavy. But there are strategies. So when we talk about taxes, it's one of the biggest things we need to address. And it's one of the last things people want to talk about. I'm always saying, hey, let's talk about taxes. And when I bring up taxes, this is the response most people give me. Hold on.
Oh my god. Where's all your money gone, Daddy? Taxes. 9, 10, 11. Let me fix my house. But it's okay. It's part of the game. No, it's not fun. It's not fun to what? It's the worst part of the game. Oh, it's what? Taxes.
That's a family enjoying a game of Monopoly. Enjoying a game of Monopoly. A kid losing his mind over taxes. What's interesting is all these kids sit down, these two kids and their mother sit down and play Monopoly, and they all have the same luxury tax spot, same community chest, same chance cards. But yet this kid is losing it over taxes. And whenever I show this video or hear that play the audio, people always say, hey, you said you have 4 kids. Is that one of your kids? Do you think Kimberly would allow me to show that, let people hear our kid melting down in front of a room full of people consistently? No. I'm not going to say it's never happened, but Donnie's not one of our kids. But when we talk about taxes, that's the response I often get. Because we always say there's 2 certainties in life, right? Death and taxes. Why do we relate those things so closely? Why is it that's how we feel? Oh, taxes and death, the 2 things I lump together. But they're part of our life. They're not completely avoidable. They can be somewhat avoidable legally, but you need to make sure that you have a plan specific for it. Now, to understand taxes for the future, you have to understand taxes from the past. You have to understand the trends of our country and what's happened with them. So let's talk for just a moment about the history of our federal taxes. We didn't have any federal taxes until 1861. We ran our country just as a company. We had to export more than we imported. We had no federal taxes until 1861. Well, then we had the Civil War. We had to pay both sides of the Civil War. So President Lincoln put into effect a 3% flat tax for the whole country. Everybody pays 3%. And he said, once the debt's done, we'll take care of it. It took us 10 years. By 1871, we had paid off all the Civil War. So what did the federal government do with that tax? They eliminated it. They didn't repurpose it. They didn't find some other thing to feed it into. They didn't use it to fund. It was just gone. So then we had no more federal income tax all the way until 1916. What happened in the mid-19-teens that caused us to have some debt and expenses? Not sure why this isn't showing our next slide. World War I is the right answer. World War I comes in, and all of a sudden we had an overseas war, an expensive war, that was costing us a lot of money. So how did we decide to pay for it? Not a flat tax, but a progressive tax system. We went from, instead of saying everybody pays 3% to, well, depending on how much money you make determines how much you're going to pay in taxes. So taxes spiked up. They went up to a pretty decent clip where all of a sudden, imagine this, in 1915, you had no federal taxes. In 1916, and you're earning, let's say, $400,000. In 1916, you have to pay 68% federal taxes. But the year before, you had none. Ruh-roh. All right, that's a hit to the paycheck right there. And they had this progressive system, and it stayed up until we had the Great Depression, so they brought it down drastically. Now, here's what's interesting. Look at where these rates are, and kind of mentally note that, because we're going to come back to those rates in just a little bit. They stayed low, then they went up, and here was the high point. 1945 was the high point of our federal tax system, where the top bracket was 94%. 94%. That's a lot of money. So there was a young actor becoming very popular. And he started commissioning almost $100,000 a movie. That's a lot of money in 1945. And he realized that if he made 2 movies, he stayed in what he considered to be an appropriate tax bracket. If he made a 3rd movie, it was almost entirely taxed at 94%. So out of his $100,000, he's getting $6,000. But he also lived in California with a 2% state tax. So he also had to pay 2% state tax. So out of his $100,000, he got $4,000. He said, I can't do it. I can't do it. So he would tell studios and directors, if you want me, you can wait till next year and you can make movie number 1. Or you can give the role to somebody else, but I'm not earning $100 and taking home $4,000. Well, it was a very passionate move, and this is the actor. A young Ronald Reagan. Now, if you ever want to know why he was so passionate about taxes when he became President Reagan, he saw what it did to him in 1945, so in 1980 when he could do something about it, he did. He said, I saw what it did in my prime earning years, when I could have made a lot more money, but I just couldn't pay those taxes. So that was 1945. Then from 1945 really through 1980, we were either at war or paying for a war or bringing on new social programs that hadn't been around before. So we never really dropped down our taxes, but you'll see the history shows they sprint up and slowly come down. outside of the Great Depression. They sprint up to pay for some international crazy level of debt we take on, and then they slowly come down. Well, then they stay down. Here comes President Reagan. He brings them in. They stay down. They spike up a little bit, and they come back down. Then the Tax and Jobs Act goes into effect in 2018. So in 2018, here's our new federal tax brackets. Now, I can't remember I told you we were going to mentally bookmark where the Great Depression rates were. Well, for most Americans, our rates today are similar or even potentially lower than they were during the Great Depression. Now, whenever I talk about taxes, I use the phrase quite a bit, it's most Americans. The reason I say most Americans is I talk about taxes often, knowing that they're the #1 expense for retirees for most Americans. And whenever I bring them up, I say taxes are lower than they've been in all of our lifetimes. And then someone undoubtedly comes up to me afterwards and says, not for me, taxes are higher now because I have 32 rental properties and a $300,000 carry forward loss and this, and I sold a business and I did. Well, you're not most Americans, right? Most Americans use what we call the standard deduction, and you file as short form and painlessly as possible. And now they even have the senior short form, which is even shorter than the regular short form. And that's how we treat taxes. I don't want to deal with it. CPA or H&R Block, get it done for me and just let's get on. But yet, knowing that taxes are a huge liability in your portfolio, what could you do to benefit from the fact that taxes are low? Well, what do we know about history? They stay low until something causes them to spike up, not creep up. Generally, it's an international event that causes us a lot of debt. Have we had any of those recently? 2020. An international event. Worldwide, once-a-century pandemic. And then, since then, and this is not an opinion, because people always say, well, is this your thoughts? No. It's from usdebtclock.org, a federal-funded website. At the start of 2020, our federal debt was right around $22 trillion. As of today, we're at $31.5 trillion. So that is, from 2020 now, 3 years and 4 months, we've added $9.5 trillion of national debt. So a lot of debt was added in an international event. So what do I think taxes are going to do in the future? Here comes an opinion. I think they're going to go up. But it's not even my opinion, because the Tax and Jobs Act, when it was written in 2017, went into effect in 2018, it had an expiration date. Like a sales sticker at Meijer, right? Those little yellow stickers that says, oh, this is on sale, but only from 4/7 to 4/13, and you can bet on 4/14 the price is going right back up. The same thing. The sale on taxes, the discount goes from January 1 of 2018 through December 31, 2025. It's already written into law that taxes are going back up in 2026. But they don't call it a tax hike, they call it sunsetting the program, because that's much more enjoyable to say and think about. We're going to sunset the Tax and Jobs Act. What does that mean? Your taxes are going up. And that's already written into law that we're going back up 3 to 5% per bracket. Deductions are going back down to where they were, and credits are coming back, but it's still, for most Americans, lower than what they're getting now. That means your current lifestyle will cost you 3 to 5% more. And if that was it, that'd be it. But also, we start approaching this magical thing called required minimum distributions. It's become a moving target. It never moved, and now it moves every year or two. And they change when you have to take money out of your accounts and pay taxes on it. So you say, well, I don't want to deal with taxes now. No, but taxes are going to deal with you at some point. They're going to come calling, because the federal government isn't altruistic. They are going to come get their money at some point, and it's required minimum distributions. They make you take out so much per year to pay taxes on it. So if I know that taxes are historically low today, it's not an opinion, I even brought a chart to back it up, right? It's not my opinion. They're historically low, and they're going back up. What should you do? You should take some of your pre-tax money, 401k, 403b, 457, traditional IRA, or any rollovers you have. Take them, pay some of that money, pay some taxes on it, and put it into a Roth. Put it into a non-qualified account. Put it in a trust account. Put it in something that is after tax. Because they're going to make you pay taxes on it. You might as well pay taxes when it's cheaper. I told you I have 4 kids. When milk goes on sale, we buy extra and put it in the fridge in our basement. It's not a matter of if those 3 boys and the girl are going to go through it. It's a matter of when. And it's going to be soon. So I might as well pay less money for the same milk I'm going to use in 5 days, 7 days. If there's some meal that they all enjoy and Kimberly says it's healthy, it's on our meal plan twice a week. And I get those ingredients, and if they're on sale, I buy them extra and throw them in the pantry because they're at a discount. And we're going to go through them. You are going to go through your taxes. They're going to make you pay it. When that money comes out and you pay taxes on it, it'll be at whatever the rates are in the future. Whatever the rates happen to be. We don't know those. We know today's rates, and we know history. So I know that it doesn't get any better than this in the tax world. They can't get lower. They are going to go up. So take time, build out a tax strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. We have the 23 tax year, 24 tax year, and the 25 tax year to do Roth conversions. To take chunks of money, pay taxes on it, put it in your Roth, or put it after tax. You should be maximizing your brackets, understanding where they fit. Some people are very afraid of jumping into the next bracket. I understand that. Because oftentimes when I sit down with people and say, well, what happens if you're in the 22% bracket and then you convert too much? And now I go into the 24% bracket. What happens? They go, now I'm taxed at 24%. That's accurate, but only for those last couple dollars. If I get $100 and they're all taxed at this bracket, and only $1 accidentally falls over into this higher bracket, only the $1 is taxed more. All the other dollars are taxed where they came in at 0, 10, 12, 22%. That's why we get what's called an effective tax rate. It's if I pay so much here, so much there. Across the board, I pay 13, 14%. So use taxes to your advantage. They're at a discount. Pay them now to an extent. Don't get crushed by it. Don't turn the whole thing over. I'll just convert it all in 1 year. That's probably not a good idea anyways. But have a strategy, benefit from taxes. Because when they come calling and your RMDs are reduced because you converted a bunch of it to Roth. Roth IRAs don't have distributions that have to come out. They don't have required minimum distributions. That means if you put it in a Roth, it's off the tax grid and off the government's distribution grid for the rest of your life. And it passes on to your beneficiaries tax-free. So there are a lot of strategies that can really help, especially when we know that 80% of all of America's retirement savings is pre-tax. IRAs, 401k, 403b. And if you can convert as much as you can on your terms, it helps set up a good longevity plan for the future. If taxes go through the roof, and in 7 years you want to redo a kitchen, you want to go on a cruise, you want to do something, let's say that kitchen costs 30 grand. Not even that crazy to think about anymore the way things go. But because you have to pull from an IRA and taxes are up, you have to pull out $43,000. Pay the feds, pay the state to get your $30,000 to pay the contractors and the cabinet people. So that's not a $30,000 kitchen, it's a $43,000 kitchen. If you had taken money at a discounted rate, maybe you could have gotten it for $35,000, $37,000. Plan for the future. Don't just diversify your investments, diversify your taxes and get some after-tax accounts. Number one, you can do, take care of taxes because they're coming, so you might as well deal with them on your own terms. Number two, deal with income, understanding how income works now. This is the three-legged stool of retirement income. It's been around for a long time. However, it's changing a lot and quickly. This is the three-legged stool of retirement income that your parents were designed to have. You get your pension, you get your Social Security, and whatever is left, whatever is short, you pull from the personal savings. Well, in 1980, over 40% of Americans were going to retire with a lifetime pension. Over 40%, that's pretty good. Today the number is less than 8% of Americans get a lifetime pension. And of those who do have them, most aren't real confident in the funding. There's some issues in pension funding. Well, I've got the PBGC, it'll back us up. I don't think we want to count on government programs to pay out the bills for us in the future, right? Take control, don't relinquish control. So when I hear people talk about, well, I work for the big three, should I take the lump sum or take the pension? That's a great question. There's a lot of analytics that goes into it, but anytime you can take control, I tend to be a fan. But knowing that pensions are disappearing, well, now I have my Social Security to lean on. On the Social Security website, again, not Mike's opinion, on their website it says without major Social Security reform, they'll be cutting all benefits by up to 25% in 12 years. 12 years. I think most of us say, I'd still like to be collecting my Social Security benefits in 12 years, and with inflation going the way it's going, I don't want to take a 25% pay cut. But that's what they are promising us on their website. But don't worry, they say, without major Social Security reform. So as long as someone does Social Security reform, we'll be fine. There's actually a third certainty in life. There's death, taxes, and they never do Social Security reform. Nobody wants to be the politician to stand up in front of the world and say, everybody needs to take a pay cut for the good of the future. That's a great way to get unelected. No matter what people say, senior citizens have always been and will continue to be the largest voting demographic. So you don't rock that vote by cutting Social Security. So it always gets kicked down the road or repurposed or some other thing magically comes into it. But there are funding issues. That's Social Security's promise to us. Without reform, they're going to cut benefits. Now, there were some independent auditors who said that number seems wrong. And they came back, Bill Gross, who founded PIMCO's bond funds, very well-respected economist, came back and said, it's more like 2032, 2033. Either way, not good. So the real Social Security three-legged stool is starting to look more like this. We get our pension, maybe, and if you do, it's got some holes in it. You get less Social Security than you promised, most likely within the next 12 years. Your personal savings has to do an awful lot of the lifting. When we talk about it, the problem is, no matter who you talk to, they have a different view of how you should get income from your investments. No matter what seminar you go to, no matter what webinar you watch, there's a different pitch. And they're all 100% convinced and 100% accurate, right? They're never wrong. It's absolute. And that's what we hear. And you hear things like this. How much of your retirement income do you want at risk? You can answer that. Anybody in the room, how much of your retirement income do you want at risk?
Zero.
Right. Everybody's like, I think the answer is zero, but I don't want to be the one to say it. It's zero. Thank you. Right? She's like, it's zero, guys. Yeah. No, we don't want any risk in our income, right? And you've been in these workshops in these rooms, and they say, well, if that's the case, buy an annuity and never face the market ever again. Okay. I get it. Annuities give you absolute guarantee, and I don't disagree with that. I actually like annuities. However, some people say you should only trust the market because the market always goes up over time. Well, that's true. But if you retired at the end of 1999, here comes 2020. Now all I'm going to do is take 4%. The rule of 4% says my money's going to last me 30 years. You take 4% out of your account. It's an economic tool that has been used since 1995. An economist came up with it in 95. So it's not this 100-year-long tested thing. 1995 it came out. And they said if you take 4% of your account value, the money will last you 30 years. Sounds good. If you retired in 1999, and then we go into a 3-year stretch where the market's never really bad, but it was bad for 3 straight years. Negative 10, negative 13, and negative 23%. 3 consecutive years of losses. But you also took 4% out. The market's down 46%. And so when you have a certain amount of money, you say, I'm going to take 4% out. But then that number drops by 10% because the market dropped. Not because you did something wrong. The market dropped. Well, now I get 4% of less, or I have to take a higher percentage to get the same income. Then it drops by another 13%. Gosh. Now I need to take out 6% to live on the same lifestyle, live on 4%. And then it drops again. So now you're down 50-something percent 3-4 years into retirement. Like you're cherry-picking bad years. I sure am. Because that's what the reality is. If you're the one who retired in 99, that was your reality. You can use numbers to say whatever you wanted to say. I could also cherry pick and say, well, if you retired in 2009, gosh, you've just made money hand over fist ever since. That's great. Tell that to the people who were trying to retire in 2008 but couldn't because their money lost so much. So retirement is about playing the ups and the downs. So there's a thing called sequence of returns risk. It's a financial principle, and it talks about when you take money out, matters. If you don't take any money out of your accounts, as long as you stay in the game, you win. The market works over time. If the market's dipping, keep throwing money in it because you're buying at a lower rate. It's called dollar cost averaging. You let it run up and you win over time. But the day you start withdrawing money from your accounts, all of a sudden now we become Warren Buffett investors. And that means this. Warren Buffett has 2 rules of investing. Number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Right? Once you start withdrawing money, it's about, all right, now I can't lose money anymore because I'm already drawing down this thing. So if you pull money from the market, that's your risk. That's the number one option. People say, I'm going to do a rule of 4%. I think it's a great rule as long as you can keep making 6% and only taking out 4%. But know the risk. Then other people say, well, what if I do dividends? I love dividends and preferred stocks. It's a great way of getting a triggered off consistent income. And you can bank on a lot of these things. I mean, if you said, like, right now out of nowhere, I need $12,000 a year of income, where do I get it from? Well, I promise you, if you put $300,000 in Exxon stock, it pays a 4% dividend. It has for years, and it will continue to pay. So if you put $300,000 in Exxon, it will give you $12,000 a year of income, and you'll probably be right around $300,000 a year. That's great. However, if you're using dividends or preferred stocks, which I love, make sure that you understand that that money is now illiquid for your life. Because if I take some of that money and go buy a camper, because I want to pay cash and I don't want to finance a camper at today's rates, I get it. But I also need to build a barn because I can't leave a nice brand new camper out in the yard, and so we should build a barn that I've been waiting on for the last 20 years. So we build this barn, and let's say everything goes perfect and you're out for $100,000, right? Now I have $200,000 of Exxon stock paying me $8,000 a year. Now I don't have the income because I sold off my income producing asset. Having a dividend is a lot like owning a rental property in that as long as I hold it, as long as they pay, I get income. If I sell the house, I don't get to collect rent checks anymore. The same way, if you sell your dividend stocks, you don't get to collect dividends anymore. So you have to treat it as an illiquid asset. So that's the second way you can get income. The third one is real estate. Real estate is the best, one of the absolute best legal tax havens we have in this country. If you have rental properties, you can hide a lot of income in rentals, and it's legal, it's all above board, but you can get rid of a lot of income. However, I've noticed that for a lot of my clients, there's a shelf life on how long they want to be landlords, and it ends right around age 70. You get to a certain point and you say, I'm not dealing with this, there's some young kids who moved in, or it's this, or that. I'm out, I don't want to do this anymore. So then we sell the income producing asset, we get a lump sum of money, and now what do I do with it? Because that check's not coming next month. We have to repurpose it. Then the fourth option is an annuity. I put money in, I get income out guaranteed for life, but I can't just go run and grab that money whenever I want it. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's giving you guaranteed income. And the good news is, unlike the rule of 4%, and I think you should plan on this, if you use an annuity for income, it's never going to make money the rest of your life. Just plan on it. If it does, it's great, right? And again, we use annuities. I think they're a great tool. But know what they are and know what they aren't. If someone says this is going to give you exceptional income and it should grow by 8% a year, no, it won't. It won't. I know because I've been doing them for years. They don't do that. You can get ones that are growth annuities, and in the incredible years, they'll make you 6, 7, or 8. In the bad years, you lose nothing. But if they're going to give you income, just assume you're going to make at best 3 to 5%. But that's okay because the checks keep on clearing. And even if the account drops down to nothing, the checks keep showing up. What mutual fund or brokerage account can you have that runs down to zero? They keep cutting you checks. It doesn't happen. So annuities are great for that. But the problem is you go sit in a workshop or you sit in someone's room or someone refers you over and someone walks in and says, the market's the worst. Why would you ever go in the market and throw it all in annuities? Well, that's probably not appropriate because what if an emergency comes up and I can't get my money out? All right, well, don't trust the annuity salesmen. They're all for people. You should just get a market portfolio and trust it. Buy a bunch of Vanguard funds and it'll work over time. That's true. Just don't lose any money. Last year, S&P down 20%, the NASDAQ down 30%. I hope you picked the Dow because that was the winner. You have to be really rolling the dice. So just understand. And then there's also this world of banking. That's really the three worlds of money. The Wall Street side, the insurance side, and the bank people. The bank people say, why would you ever put it at risk in the market? We can hold it for you, and traditionally, not this year, traditionally, we'll hold it for you, we'll keep it safe, we'll keep it liquid, we'll even throw you 10% a year. You're welcome. You're welcome. And we're going to send you a 1099 for it. That's the best part about it. The kicker at the end of every year from the bank is here's your 1099 just to remind you made nothing, right? But it's liquid and it's mostly safe. So know that these are the worlds of money. And so no one side is 100% right and none of them are 100% wrong. You need to just be able to stand in the middle and say, all right, well, maybe I should have some of this, and maybe I should get some of that. And if I want guaranteed income, maybe I should get an annuity. If I want to grow, I shouldn't say, hey, let me get an annuity. That's going to run me up for the rest of my life. Don't do it. And the only ones that do make you money charge 3 to 4% in fees. We wouldn't, if we knew that, if it was clearly disclosed, we would never buy a 4% investment tool. But it happens all the time. So just understand how the income world works. It's different than what it was because our personal savings has to do a lot of heavy lifting, and all we're told is, don't risk your income. I agree, but be informed and make the decision. And there is no perfect investment. I know because if there was, it would look like this. It's tax advantaged. You never have to pay taxes in it again. It's 100% liquid. You can't lose money, and it earns 7% a year. Right? If I and it doesn't have R&Ds, it's often tax free. Right? If I said that, you'd say, sign it up, let's go. There's no such thing. So what you need to do is have a balanced portfolio that has some of this, some of that, and be willing to look at all sides of it. And if someone's only willing to talk about one side, you got to think, gosh, why can't we talk about the other stuff and make sense of it all? So that's what you need to do. Have a consultant thought process and figure out what makes the most sense for your family, because your portfolio probably looks different than mine. Right? I have one of our clients. She is 76 years old. And as I'm sitting with her in a meeting, I'm describing what we're doing in her portfolio. And she goes, Mike, are you invested in this? I said, no, I'm 39 and I do this for a living. I'm extremely risky. Well, what are you invested in? Well, right now, I have some funds that are leveraged 3 times and I'm shorting the market. So that's what I'm doing, but you shouldn't because you're 76. So we should be different. And my family's goals are different. We're trying to go set foot on all 7 continents. It takes a lot of money. So we're trying to accomplish that. Everybody's family is different. Your experiences shape your expectations. What you've been through determines what you do or don't want to go through. If you've been burned in the past, you're very hesitant. If you've been very fortunate in the past, you're very risky. So understanding your experiences determines how you should or shouldn't be investing for the future. We shouldn't do it all on emotion, but we should be aware of what we've been through and build appropriately for our families. We talk about risk. So the first thing, address taxes. Number 2, understand the income tools. Don't buy into the one-page white paper. Just understand the goods and the bads of everything and build it. The third thing, the final thing, address risk appropriate, again, for you and your family. There's phases of life we go through where we do or don't want to experience certain things. Back in I believe it was 2016, 2015 or 2016, I had a brilliant idea, and it was that we should go to Michigan Adventure on Labor Day Monday. Because my thought is, this is back when kids went to school the day after Labor Day. So I'm thinking, nobody's going to be at Michigan Adventure the day before Labor Day, or on Labor Day. Everybody's going to be getting ready for school, or coming back from up north. Nobody's going to be there. Well, I was right. There was nobody there because it was 50 degrees. And we went to a water park. And to get a deal, I prepaid for the tickets, including my in-laws, because I wanted to bring babysitters. So we brought them along, and we go to a water park on a 50-degree Labor Day Monday. And we were there late. And we got there half an hour after it opened. And I'm not kidding you when I say we parked in spots 1 and 2. Nobody else was there. They lost money that day. And we came in and we walked in the park. And I was not going to pay. I'd already paid for the tickets. I'm way too cheap to bail on tickets I've already paid for. So we went. And we walk in the park in jeans and hoodies and hats like we're ready to take this day on. So we go in, and my in-laws said, well, gosh, there's nobody here. Why don't you guys go ride some rides? We'll take the kids, we'll meet up later, and we'll go to the water park. I said, you think we're still going to the water park today? There's not a chance. But I will take the babysitting. So you take the kids, and we'll go walk around. So we decided to go on roller coasters, because I've always loved roller coasters. Always. Trips to Cedar Point as a kid. We've done Six Flags. We've done Geauga Lake. We've done everything. And so my wife and I go on this ride. It's called Shivering Timbers. If you know what it is, it's the wooden roller coaster that throws your back out. That's what it is. And we went on it. And it was awful. It was a really bad experience. Not that they did anything wrong, except for just have a really rickety ride that I rode and it messed up my back. So then we get off the ride, and I'm too prideful to tell my wife how much pain I'm in. So we get off, and she looks over, and there's a metal roller coaster right across the way. And there's nobody in line. And so I said, what do you want to do? She goes, well, we might as well ride that one right there, too. I said, all right, let's do it. So we walk in line, and there's nobody there. We walk all the way to the very front cart and sit in there by ourselves, the only two. And this is one where your feet hang down and there's nothing underneath you. So we get in it, and I'm thinking metal ride is going to be smoother. Well, it was smoother. And it was fast, and it went upside down and spun all around. And then we get to the end. And we're sitting there, I'm just kind of not saying anything, just close my eyes, hoping she's going to say, I don't want to do this anymore. And she doesn't say a word. They stop us, they you stop really hard, and they slowly pull you in the spots. There's nobody else in line. So then they said, hey guys, there's nobody here. Do you just want to go again? Now at this point, we've been married, honestly, 9 or 10 years. And I thought we were good at communication. We were not, because neither one of us said a word. We just, sure, let's do it again. So we do it the third ride in about 15 minutes. The benefit of a long ride in a roller coaster is it gives your stomach time to settle down. It gives your brain time to stop bouncing all around inside your head. So we ride our third ride in about 15 minutes. And we go and we finish. Now my arms and feet are just dangling as I'm sitting in this chair. And I finally said, all right, Kimberly, I don't think I'm a roller coaster person anymore. I feel very sick. And she said, oh, thank God. I hated all 3 of those rides. I was waiting for you to say something. And I said, why did you say? I wanted you to say. There's a lesson in there about marriage communication that we don't have time for today, but we learned it that day. I'll tell you that. So, literally from that moment on, I was like, I hope I never ride another roller coaster again the rest of my life. So then we go walk back to the front of the park. My oldest son says, Dad, there's a ride up front called the Wildcat. It's 1 minute and 10 seconds long, just so you know. I timed it out. 1 minute and 10 seconds, and normally you wait in line for an hour and a half to ride for 1 minute and 10 seconds, but there's nobody there this day. And so Gavin says, Dad, will you take me on the Wildcat? And I said, son, I love you so much. No, I will not take you on the Wildcat. What I'll do is I'll walk you up, I'll sit you in the seat, and then I'll walk right through and stand on the other side, and I'll wait for you like a good dad. And I waited for him, and he rode it around. I was like, I am done. And I haven't ridden a roller coaster since. I've got a real good streak going with that. I'm trying to keep it going. But at this phase of my life, ups and downs and spinning around, and the Matterhorn that we used to go on when I went to the boardwalk in Ocean City, Maryland, that spins you around super fast. I'm done with all that. Because at this phase of my life, the trolley that takes you around the park feels pretty good, or a slow-moving carousel. That's about where I like to be. But we had that moment in life where we love the risk, we love the joy, we love everything that came with it. And there's investing times in life where we invest our money a certain kind of way. Because as long as time is on your side, you just keep riding it out. You keep climbing as fast as you can, the riskiest way you can, because it's going to work out because you're 28 years old or you're 35 years old. Market's crashing. Sounds good. Like I said, throw more money in. Dollar cost average. Keep making money. When you get to a certain point where it doesn't become so much about the return on your money, it's more about the return of your money. When I log in tomorrow in my accounts, does it look pretty similar to today? That's what I'm looking for. I want it to go up. I really don't want it to go down. And you start climbing a little differently. I climb in a way that, yes, I get where I'm going, but I get down the mountain the right way. Now, this is a great picture. I don't understand why he doesn't have shoes on. That's the only thing I can't figure out in this picture. Everything else makes perfect sense. But he has no shoes on. I can't figure that out. I'm like, man, if you're a safe person, why aren't you using every tool available to you to be safe? But what he does is he climbs only so far. And then he takes these anchors and he sets them into the rock. And then he runs his rope through it. It's a process. He has to stop and slow down. He's not even climbing anymore. He just keeps running his ropes through and doing all this work. He's got to carry all these ropes and make him slower up the mountain. And then he goes so far and he does it all over again. But the good news is, when his bare feet slip and he can't keep his footing and he starts falling, he only falls so far and then his ropes catch him and keep him safe. It's designed for how much comfort he wants. Now, if he wants to climb faster, maybe he only sets a rope every 100 feet or 150 feet. Or if it's a really steep climb and he's very nervous and it's really uncertain mountain, he only goes every 30 feet. So that's another rope. Because he says, if I fall, I only want to fall 30 feet. But it's up to him. It's completely up to him. Now, he could climb this mountain 1,000,000 times, but what if there was rain last night, there was bad weather, now the rocks are slippery. Well, this guy, he can do everything right like he's done it every single time. But yet this time the mountain gives way. Who pays the price? Him or the mountain? He pays it. This guy says, all right, I do everything right, I still slip and fall, I set a 30-foot rope, that's all I fall. And let's just say somehow that falls out. I got another one 30 feet below that. I have all these safeguards that keep me safe because of what I've been through or what I've determined is appropriate for me. It's specific. Well, investing, there are the same safeguards. You can set these parameters based on your family. Because again, our families are going to be different. We should build for us. And don't allow yourself to be lumped into terms like this. Conservative, moderate, aggressive. My least favorite term in all of financials is moderately conservative. It's the most ambiguous term they could possibly use. And here's what moderately conservative means. I've seen it quite a bit. When the market's good, I want to make all the money. When the market's bad, I don't want to lose any money. That's moderately conservative. If things go bad, no, get me out right away. But I really don't want to miss it. That's moderately conservative. But it's very ambiguous because how do you determine that? Well, if you're a conservative, why are you a conservative investor? Well, because I lost a lot of money in 2008. Okay. When we look at risk, there's a threefold way we need to identify risk. Number one, there is your risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is exactly this. It's what can you stomach? What can I handle? And it's a visceral, emotional reaction. I can only handle this. And there's nothing wrong with that. If people tell you don't be emotional about your investments, the thought's right, but the sentiment is really bad because it's not an account number to me, it's my life savings. It's everything I've done for the last 35 years and everything I'm hoping to live off of for the next 30, 35 years. So don't tell me don't get emotional when I just lost $80,000. However, we don't necessarily want to make intense decisions like that in the foxhole. We want to make some good decisions outside of it. So what we do is not just look at risk tolerance, because that's what you can stomach. We also look at risk capacity. Risk capacity says, I know you feel a certain way, but how much could your portfolio stand to lose and you still be okay? Because some people come in and they say, I'm very aggressive. I'm okay with risk. I've been trading and day trading and options. Great. What if you lose 10% and for your portfolio it's unrecoverable because of how much you're taking out? Well, I've never thought of it like that. Right, so we need to stress test not your reaction to risk, but your portfolio's reaction to risk. So that's risk capacity. And the final one is risk necessity. We look at it, now that we've looked at how aggressive you can be, how conservative could you be and be okay? What if I only got 2% the rest of my life? And inflation stayed at 3.5 or 4? How would we do? Maybe that doesn't work. Do we need 3? Do we need 4? I had one gentleman who came into a workshop here back in 2018. He was sitting right in the back where you're sitting. And as he sat there through the night, he sat like this the whole night. Just arms crossed, just angry, looking, not like your arms crossed pleasant. He was arms crossed. Thank you, exactly. He was just shooting daggers from the back of the room to the point where I was kind of talking like this a lot of the nights. I was getting, I was like, this guy's real angry. And so we go through and we get to the end of the night and I say, hey, if you want us to sit down and give you a look at your portfolio, we'll do it. And so then he sets an appointment. And I'm like, this guy's going to come in just to take time out of his day and cuss me out over something. Maybe he doesn't like roller coasters either. I don't know. And so he comes in and as we sit down, he's telling me, I'm an aggressive investor because these advisors lost me all this money in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2007, 8, 9. They lost me all this money, and now I'm still recovering, and he tells me his whole story. And he did an incredible job because he finally fired his advisor in 2009, started making his own investment decisions from 2009 to 2018, and had recovered 3 times his portfolio to a healthy number. It's incredible. I said, are you looking for work? I mean, he did good stuff. And I said, so why are you aggressive? Because of where I could have been had I not lost the money. I said, all right, I understand that. But we're looking at a portfolio of about $2.2 million, and you're pulling out how much? $45,000 a year. Okay. And I said, let me pull the Livingston County average bank savings rates. Because again, this is in 2018, so it was not a pretty list, right? This is all 0.25%, 0.5% if you're committing to a year CD. And I ran the numbers out for him. I said, if you live out, he was 73. If if you put your money in the bank the rest of your life, lived out with inflation, taxes, everything accounted for, by age 100 for your wife, who's a couple years younger, you're still going to have $1.2 million. So tell me again, why are you aggressive? I hadn't thought about it like that. All he had in his mind was, I lost so much that now, so he had his foot on the gas the whole way because of, but nobody had ever given him permission to take a step back and recalibrate. He literally went, when he fired his advisor, went to Walmart, bought 2 TVs and a new computer, set it up, and started getting up every morning at 6 a.m. to research, sat at the computer all day until 4:30 after the markets closed, and then he would go retire after that. That's no life. And so when we went through and we started asking these questions, he said aggressive, and if he had just said aggressive, I said, sounds good, let's go be risky. That's not the whole story. So hearing what he's been through helped me understand what he does or doesn't want to go through in the future. So risk is more than just conservative or aggressive. It's a specific number to make sure you live the life you want to live. So understand risk to your benefit, not to just a generic term, not to just an idea of, well, we'll buy 30 or 50 funds, see what happens over the next 6 months, rebalance. I think we've learned in the last couple of years, 6 months is too long. Sometimes 3 months is too long to wait to rebalance. You need to be aware of what's going on in the market, because from February 19th to March 21st of 2020, the market dropped 33%. The fastest 30% crash in the history of the stock market. It took 22 trading days. Fast. So understand those things and how they work. And make sure it's specific to you, not just a generic idea. This is a Murray 20-inch lawnmower. That's not revelation, that literally says it right there. But I specifically have this one on the screen because when I was 9 years old, I started my first company. I started mowing lawns because I wanted to earn money. When you grow up in a military family, and you live on army bases and trailer parks until my dad finally retired, we were constantly on the move, and the rule in our family was, we will cover your necessities, you cover your luxuries. That was the rule when I was a kid. So if you wanted a new Nintendo or whatever it is, you could buy it. So at 9 years old, I wanted a bike, and I said, I would like to buy a bike. And my dad says, you got to go earn the money. I said, well, I'd like to mow our lawn. He says, you were going to do that anyways. You're at Douglas. That was your job this summer. All right? And we lived in the trailer park in East Lansing. And as I did, I said, well, do you think Mr. Grun, our next door neighbor, let me mow? He goes, yeah, he probably would. I said, will you ask him for me? He says, no. You have to go talk to him. You have to look him in the eye, shake his hand, and tell him how much it's going to cost him. So I go over to Mr. Grun. Now, granted, this is my first year. I've been mowing our lawn for about 2 or 3 weeks at this point, right? So I thought I was a pro. But I go to Mr. Grun's store, and I asked him, I said, Mr. Grun, I'd like to mow your lawn. Can I do it for $10 a week? He says, are you going to trim? Weed whip, you know. I wasn't allowed to do that yet. I wasn't old enough, according to my dad. I could push a lawnmower with spinning blades, but I couldn't trim yet. And so I said, yep, we'll do it. I just figured we'd figure it out. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm probably have to get my dad $2 out of the 10 for him to trim for me. Okay, so we do it. We start mowing his lawn. My dad didn't take the $2. He basically said, no, I'll do it, I'll help you, but you have to mow our lawn, you have to maintain the mower. And he gave me these 4 rules, but I learned the 4th one later. 3 rules when I first started. Mow straight lines, don't miss any spots, and don't spit any grass against the house or in the mulch. That was the big one. So I mowed Mr. Grun's lawn. And 3 weeks later, I went over to our other neighbors, and I started mowing Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher's lawn. At 9 years old, so now I have 2 jobs. I think this would be called child labor today, right? And probably illegal, CPS gets called. But for back then, it was just how you got a bike. And so I'm now mowing Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher's lawn for $10 a week too, and I had a Monday night lawn and a Thursday night lawn. Well, within 4 weeks, I was mowing 5 lawns at $10 a lawn. And I had a Monday night lawn, a Tuesday night lawn, a Wednesday night lawn, a Thursday night, and a Friday night lawn. At 9 years old. And the company was called Douglas Lawns. I wasn't a great marketer, but I could work hard. And so on Tuesday nights, I mowed Mr. Grun's daughter's house. Now, she lived down our street, down a hill, and on another street in our neighborhood. And so we didn't have a trailer, so I just had to push it down the street, push it down the hill, and go there. And so we'd go on Tuesday nights. My dad would get home from work. He was an Army recruiter. So he'd go home at like 6:30, and we'd go mow. And so we're mowing, and we get done for the night. And he says, how's it look? Looks great. It's starting to get kind of dark. It's about 8:30. And he says, you miss any spots? No, everything looks really good. Sounds good, let's head back up. So we go up the street, again, pushing up the hill down. And then we get there, and my dad says, all right, hop in the car. And I'm thinking, he is so proud we're going to get ice cream. So we get in the car, and we drive down the street, and we go to Miss Cindy's house. I said, what are we doing? He says, let's walk the lawn together. So we walked the lawn. He goes, you missed a spot right here behind the shed. You missed a spot over here. And you didn't mow the straight lines over here. I said, why didn't you say that when we were down here? He says, because you wouldn't have remembered next time. You need to know the pain of pushing that mower back down here. I said, can I do it tomorrow? Because it's getting late. He says, well, Miss Cindy is Tuesday night's lawn. So you need to knock it out tonight. And that's when I learned the fourth lesson is, if you get it wrong, you got to make it right now. I heard that the rest of my childhood, and my kids are sick of hearing it now to this day. I say it all the time, oh, you made it wrong? You got to make it right now. So I went back. Now it's 9 o'clock. I'm out there again, child labor. I'm just pushing mowing this lawn, and I have to push it like this because it was so tall. I had to pull start it like this, and I mowed until about 9:30 to fix the mistakes. Through that summer, I earned more money than I ever thought I was going to earn. But the lessons I learned, and also then watching my dad come home from work after working in the military all day, recruiting, doing a difficult job, and then coming home and trimming for free just to teach me the lessons was a very valuable tool. Well, this summer is a very exciting summer because in the Douglas household, when you turn 9, you start mowing lawn or trimming. It's just something I've carried on. So my son Caleb, who I told you about at the beginning, he's turning 9 May 10th. And so this year is his year to start mowing lawn. Now we have a little bigger lawn than my parents did, so we have a rider. It does not exempt him from work. So he gets out. Last year he was on weeds because until you're big enough for your little butt to hold the seat down, you have to pull weeds. Now he finally can ride the mower. So as he mows, what I do when I teach him, I carefully stand behind him. They stay down in third gear, and I walk behind him and we mow. And they learn all these lessons. Do not shoot grass in the mulch. Mow straight lines, don't miss any spots. And so as we go through this, it's fun to see him kind of come full circle because now he gets to serve his family and serve our community. And then he just asked me about 2 weeks ago, hey, Dad, do you think I can start mowing lawns around the neighborhood? I said, well, you haven't mowed ours yet. So until you prove it here, you can't go elsewhere. But to invest that into him and watch him learn these lessons, and as I've told him, I said, this is stuff that you're going to use the rest of your life. And the kids hate hearing that too, right? And you're going to use math the rest of your life, especially if you come to work with Dad. But to go through that and say, listen, in life, you need to do things the right way, you need to serve the right way, you need to build plans that are appropriate. Well, for you and your retirement, it's not mow straight lines, it's deal with taxes, right? Address the tax issues. Don't miss any spots in your income. Make sure you understand the 4 rules of income planning. And then when it comes to risk, don't put yourself in a position to lose it all unnecessarily. Be specific to who you are. And then when something goes wrong, like the market starts dropping, you have to have a plan that gets you out. When last year, in 2022, the market starts crashing, we had exit strategies that got people out early on, January 24th, February 25th, May 13th, different trigger points that got us out of the market to protect people. Because once it starts going, we needed to make it right. So that's what we're doing. So tonight, as we sit here enjoying diamonds and we enjoy a good meal, the biggest thing people want to know is, are we going to be okay? Is life going to continue on the same path it's been going the last year and a half, 2 years? Is there sunshine on the other side of this recession rut we're in? Are we even at the bottom? There's a lot of questions. We just want to know, are we going to be okay? Because at the end of the day, the money is the tool to the travel, to the family, to the things we want to do. 6 weeks summer. So we're offering a conversation where for 45 minutes or so we hear your story. You come to our office. We don't go to houses because Livingston County is huge. So our office is at the McPherson Mansion 2 blocks north of here. You come in and we sit down and hear your story for 45 minutes, and at the end of that we tell you, hey, you're in great shape, don't change it, or hey, here's some ideas, or we can help you get things right that aren't right. There's no cost or obligation, we just sit down for 45 minutes. So that's the offer tonight. It's free dinner, and if you want that conversation, they're going to come around with our calendar here in a few minutes and set up a time for us to hear your story. If you have any questions, flag me down. I'll gladly come answer it for you in a one-off situation, so you don't have to ask it to the whole room. But the biggest question people always ask is, well, when does the meter start running? When do you start charging? We don't charge for meetings or anything, or even for dinner, right? We just, if it's a good fit, we can help you, then we help you. And we figure it out then. All right, so the food's ready to come out. I'm going to say a quick word of grace over the food, and then we'll listen to some music and eat some good food. All right? God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for the chance to come out to Diamonds after the last couple of years. We just appreciate coming to restaurants. So we're grateful for the staff here, the gracious hosts that they are. Bless the hands that prepare the food. I pray for everyone in this room, for their family, their finances, and for their future. Help us get home safely tonight. Bless the food, and please keep more warm weather coming. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, again, if you have any questions, flag me down. Otherwise, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm going to shoot one.
All snake.
Not video. No. By you here.
By the way, I did another COVID test today.